I feel like all we do is talk about aliens. Hey, thank you for joining the Escape With Me Book Club. Escape with me, Sam Reiner.
And me, James Reiner.
Into our most recent read. Come with us as we evade reality and go into detail about a new book. We'll be covering the book from beginning to end, so there will be spoilers. Today we are going somewhere in the United States. They won't tell us.
Most likely the West Coast.
Most likely California, yeah.
Yeah, probably California.
Published April 1st, 1997, The Stranger is the sixth book in the Animorph series. Strangely enough, the first Megamorphs, The Andalite's Gift, 7.5, was published January 1st, 1997. So it actually came out before the book that it comes after, but hey, okay. But we go back to normal with the 8th installment with The Alien coming out July 1st, 1997. It was a productive 1997.
It was.
The fight with the Yeerks is as dangerous as ever, but with two major wins and a bridge formed between the races in these books, could the Animorphs actually manage to win the secret war? Or is this just a temporary victory? So background on this, isn't 7 the second book you ever read in the series?
No, I don't think so. The first one I read was number 6, and I could not tell you what the second one was after that.
Because I thought it was 6, 7, and then you went back to the beginning.
I don't know what the second one was. All I remember was I was in a grocery store, and I was already into Animorphs. So I don't know if it was the second book I got or the third or what. But I remember walking down past the aisle where they had the magazines and stuff, and the number 8 that I still have that you read was there being sold in the little book place. And it leaped out to me because 8 has such a unique cover. Up to this point, it's always been the kids turning into animals. This one is an alien turning into a human because it's Axe. And the cover was just so eye-catching.
Yeah.
And I remember asking my mom to buy it for me right then and there. And usually she wouldn't because we were always poor. And she had 5 kids. So, of course, you get something for one kid, you have to get it for the 4 other kids sometimes. So it was just a habit of not getting spur-of-the-moment things. But in this instance, she did. Probably maybe because she liked that I was reading, because, of course, you want your child to read. But anyways, so number 8, I distinctly remember getting from the grocery store. And that's why it stuck out to me. Now, I don't know if it was the second one I got. I remember I started with 6 and I bounced around until I got all the books up to that point, and then I was on par, and then the ones coming out one after the other is what I read.
When did you finally do the Megamorph books? Did you do those as you went, or was that later?
I got them whenever I was able to. So I don't know if I actually followed along chronologically. I would just grab anything Animorphs when I could. So Animorphs, the reason you're like, oh, they came out with so many is they were one of those with the Scholastic Fair.
Yep.
You know, the thing where they would go to different schools and set up the books and kids would come in and buy. So it doesn't surprise me they had such a quick, fast production.
Oh yeah, Scholastic is crazy.
Exactly. They had that in mind of trying to sell these to kids in school to get them to read. Animorphs was up there with like Goosebumps with being kind of the forefront of something you wanted to get at the time. And I remember getting at one point this little collection thing. You've seen it up on my shelf. All my books are contained in these little bookend things made out of cardboard, and it has Animorph decal stuff on it. It might have came with the Megamorph. You got a book and you got all these bells and whistles at the Scholastic Fair with it, like bookmarks and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know when I got the Megamorphs. It was probably just at a Scholastic Fair or something, or ordering it through the Scholastic magazine or whatever.
Nice.
It's all kind of fuzzy because I don't have the greatest memory to begin with. So trying to remember what things were like when I was, I think I was about 9 to 10 about this time in the series.
Yeah. So as we continue on, okay, here's the thing. You have proclaimed that Rachel is your favorite character.
Yeah, now.
Yes, now, because
you found in one of the books where I've written Jake was my favorite character.
Yeah, in the back of the book, it was like, fill out this thing and mail it to us, and then you can buy books. And you, like I'm sure every kid ever, filled it out regardless of sending it. And so you wrote it down, you had little things like, this is my name, this is where I'm from. And one of the questions was, who was your favorite character? And you had filled in Jake.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because you didn't remember doing that.
I don't remember doing that. And I'm not surprised I said Jake because the first book I read was number 6. It's not surprising I like Jake at that time. The reason I like Rachel is because I've read the whole series now. now. And Rachel, by far, I think, is the most interesting character.
I also think during this time, Jake would probably be the closest to you. So I'm not really surprised you gravitated toward the character that reminded you of yourself in a way.
That's true. I mean, I guess I don't really relate to Marcos or Tobias or Axe. So I guess Jake would be the one.
If I filled it out when I was your age, I probably would have picked Rachel because, oh my goodness, she's a blonde and she does gymnastics. I do gymnastics and, stuff like that.
Definitely not the I will rip your throat out aspect of her, though.
I
don't know. You sometimes do your penguin thing where you're like, come on, come at me and try to hit me with your chest like a little penguin.
Appendages hurt, okay? My body checking you does not hurt. This is for you. This was a decision made with you in mind.
That would be your battle morph, because they always say battle morphs, right? They have their chosen animal that they morph into when it's time to fight, and yours would be a penguin.
Oh my goodness.
I could see you charging into battle with your wings out and your beak going.
That's so funny.
So yeah, that makes sense, I guess, putting down Jake as my favorite character.
I don't know what I would choose as a battle morph. What would you pick?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, you want something tough and big. Polar bear. That comes up later in the series, but that's one of the most ferocious creatures you can morph into.
Oh, yeah.
They're the biggest land predator.
I feel like I'd pick some type of cat.
That's fair. I think it's the leopards have the strength to pull an entire deer carcass up into a tree with them.
Yeah, I might have chose a panther.
Ooh, that one's good.
Because that was my high school mascot, was the Black Panther. I'm very original, I know. But yeah, sneaky, get you, and then go back to sneaky. That sounds more up my alley.
I was about to say, that sounds like your D&D character, so yes.
That's also how I like to play Smash Bros. I like speed characters. Hit, run away.
hit, run away.
Bowser will never get me. No. Age level for this, though, is mid-lit. Content warning, we have a little bit of a little thing.
It's going to increase as we go along. The series starts pretty tame, but it's going to get into, and people have made YouTube videos about this. This stuff gets really deep for a kid's series. Deep as in traumatic.
You were saying how it kind of grows with you as you age. It's one of those series.
It does. Well, I recall, it was back in 2010, I had done my read-through again through the series as an adult, and I just realized how great this series was once again. So I posted on Facebook. I was like, hey, I just reread through Animorphs. This series is so amazing. I love it so much. And someone commented on it saying, oh, I'm reading it with my son right now. Would you say it gets pretty mature? And I said, yeah, it gets pretty mature. And she's like, okay, I'm not going to read it to my son anymore, which kind of broke my heart. But, I'm not going to be like, oh, you need to read it to your son. That's their decision. But they had gotten actually, funnily enough, to book 7. And the part where, I guess this is bad before the trigger warning, where they burst out of an alien. And she was thinking as she was reading this to her son, this is pretty graphic. Maybe I shouldn't read this to my child.
Yeah, maybe this is one of those book series that you need to be able to read to yourself.
Yeah.
Because it is mid-lit. It is not children's.
For parents out there, maybe this is a trigger warning. Read it beforehand so you can gauge what you think your child can handle.
Yeah.
Because there are certain aspects, if you think long about it, is pretty mature for this series. Anyways.
Like I said, it is mid-lit. It is not a children's book.
Not a young children's book.
Yeah. There is a tendency, maybe like 4th grade, 5th grade, when you're like, oh, I'm more mature, and you start reading more mid-lit books. But yeah, if you're having to read to your child, they're probably not old enough.
Possibly.
Know your child, obviously. Because we do have content warning, animal abuse, kidnapping, parasites, graphic violence, gore, death, murder, and blood.
Yes.
So this is a much more action-y kind of book.
Yeah, I'd say these, especially 7, and we're going to have more. We're going to have more. Anyways.
Real quick on this, judge a book by its cover. 7, I was like, oh, cool. Rachel gets her bear morph. That's the one that you like the most.
Yeah, I've been talking it up because up to this point, she's only done elephant, which is okay, but it's really not for her kind of personality, not the animal she needs to be morphing into. When she finds her grizzly morph, that's it. That's her go-to morph now. That is her.
It works for her very well, yes.
Oh, yeah. So much so, we've joked before, I've made a D&D character named Rochelle, who's a druid that can turn into a bear, and I created this character purely off of Rachel from Animorphs. That's how iconic her bear morph is with this character.
And then we get into the first Megamorphs, and yep.
The cover's bizarre.
Those are the Animorphs. That's them.
Yeah, the cover has 4 of the Animorphs, and half of their face is them, where the other half is an animal that they turn into. And then they have Tobias as a bird standing next to him. Most covers have like a cutout where it'll show a cutout of the animal's face to where when you open the cover, there's a picture of the animal from a scene from the book. But this one's really bizarre because the cutout is like a star in the center of the cover. And when you open it up, it shows the blue cube that the Animorphs use to gain their powers. And it has hands reaching out to it. There are 5 hands, but their 5 arms are in mid-morph, where Tobias's arm is a bird talon and Jake's arm is halfway to a tiger paw. And I think Cassie's is halfway to a fly and stuff like that. And it's kind of creepy looking.
Yeah, I don't know why they keep insisting on the fly morph. They're like, this is iconic, guys. It's like, no.
Well, what kills me is they have Marcos as half wolf when Cassie is the one that her go-to battle morph. She's a wolf. Marcos is a gorilla. And they have Cassie as half a fly. That makes no sense. I mean, Jake and Rachel make sense because...
That's Jake's fly, yeah.
Yeah, Jake was halfway to tiger and Rachel halfway to bear. Why didn't they keep to all their battle morphs? Cassie should be the wolf and Marcos should be half gorilla, but whatever.
No, flies are iconic.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know what team designed this, but it's a little off if you know the characters.
I did get a feeling that this was probably going to be one of those POV switch books, like the Mega Nancy Drews or the Mega Babysitter Clubs.
It was definitely a trend then, where if you had a series where each book was a different perspective, like you said, the Babysitters Club, that you need a version where all of them come together and each chapter is a different character's perspective. Yeah.
A different perspective, and they get like 3 chapters each and their own little plot lines. And then for the Nancy Drew Mega ones, it was always her and the Hardy Boys.
Yes.
So it was kind of like a coming together. But yeah, there's not much to say about the covers. The 3rd one, the 8th book, I'm like, yep, that's Axe.
Yep.
He's going to be the narrator of this book.
So yeah, because of Tobias's situation, because the books follow a pretty similar pattern throughout the series.
Yeah, this is Axe's first book.
Yeah, so it goes from Jake to Rachel to Tobias to Cassie to Marcos. But when we come on the second round, because 6 is Jake, 7 is Rachel, 9 is Cassie, and 10 is Marcos.
Oh, dang.
I guess they were worried because they're like, well, we already did a Tobias book, but Tobias is kind of the dud in the group right now. And I say right now because things get more interesting for him later. I'm not going to spoil anything.
They just give it to Axe.
They gave it to Axe. So now Axe and Tobias kind of trade places. One round going through all the Animorphs, it'll be a Tobias, and then on the next round, it'll be Axe. So you kind of cycle through that.
That's what y'all get for not being human anymore. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, you go sit over there or stand over there, Tobias, because you're a bird now. But yeah, so it's going to kind of rotate like that. But it keeps pretty consistent until I think the very end, they kind of disrupt the order because things get a little crazy, but we'll get there when we get there.
So this time around with The Stranger, we are back with Rachel, and I think this book does a better job of showing that she is impulsive. She has a righteous fire within her than I think her last book did. The last book, I was like, about it, especially since they made a big deal about her saving her own life, and then the next book, she's literally trampling cars during a live commercial, and no one says anything. But this one does a good job. She and Cassie go to the circus. Rachel figures out that the animal tamer for the elephants is being mean to them, so she turns into an elephant to give him a talking to, and she calls herself the Elephant Police, and I can't.
Yeah, it's the same situation with Tobias in the commercial, except there's not a camera now, but she sees an injustice happening to an animal, and she steps in to rectify it, I guess.
Yeah, and she's basically like, the Elephant Police is gonna keep watching you if you don't be better.
She morphs into an elephant to threaten the elephant trainer.
It's ridiculous.
And that's her line, is she's the Elephant Police, and if he continues to abuse these animals, she will come back and harm him.
It's such a middle school thought. I can't.
It is. But yeah, it's kind of also a goodbye to her. I mean, she uses it a couple times in the future, but this is kind of a tip of the hat to that elephant form because she moves on from it and goes to her grizzly bear morph in the book. So
yeah, so the big plot about this is they found another way into the Yeerk pool.
Yes.
which they haven't done since book 1.
Yeah.
Partly because they can't find it, and also PTSD.
Exactly. Yeah. The book constantly mentions how they're emotionally scarred from it, understandably. But they know where it is. It's under the whole city. The problem is, where can you find an entrance that's safe to go through?
And I can't even with this. This is so 90s. They find an entrance in a changing stall in Gap.
Yeah, in the mall.
It's so funny.
But yeah, what are they more of? Cockroaches, right?
Yeah. And so with Axe knowing the technology better, they actually learn that, hey, we have this big pool. It's really big. It's probably not a good idea to just go to the pool because there's so many things there. But the thing feeding the pool is separate. It's somewhere else.
Yes. So the pool itself isn't really what the Yeerks feed on. It's the pool absorbs the radiation from the Yeerk's sun.
And so they call it Kandrona.
Kandrona rays, yes. So their sun has what's called Kandrona rays. And when the Yeerks are swimming in their pool, they're absorbing their nutrients of their sun. So the pool needs a Kandrona device that basically beams the energy into the pool. So the Animorphs are told by Axe, if they destroy this machine, it's going to starve the Yeerks.
Yes.
And slow them down, which is all they're trying to do, is slow things down until the Andalites can show up.
And additionally, in the background, because these are kids and they have to have real life problems, her parents are divorced, but they live near each other, and Rachel hangs out with her dad a lot. But her dad's moving to a city to get a promotion in his career, move up, and he wants Rachel to move with him, but he's like, you can choose, child. I have so many issues with the dad in this. His reasons for her coming along just sounds like he needs a girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, girlfriend's a strong word.
It's just like the activities he described. I'm like, I feel like as soon as you get a girlfriend, you're going to be like, eh.
No, I don't think that.
You know him better than I do.
Sort of. I mean, he's not that prominent in the books. I'm actually coming more from a dad situation. I mean, you want to spend time with your kids. From his perspective, if he moves, he's never going to see his kids as much. They're always going to be with the mom. And there's always this fear that they're going to love their mom more than you. I know it's kind of bleak and it's straightforward to say, but I mean, I saw that as his concern. As a child of divorce, of being a kid that's bounced back and forth between parents, seeing what my parents felt, like my dad always felt like he never got enough time with us, and he hated that.
Which is totally fair, but my issues that I'm having with this is, one, okay, he's worried about losing contact with his kids, except he only picks one. He's like, you, Rachel, screw the other two.
Because she's the oldest. The other two are too young.
Yeah, and they have the most in common.
I have to say, this plot probably connected with a lot of kids then, because a lot of kids were going through this same scenario at the same time in the 90s. Or today. I think today it could be still applicable.
Oh yeah, divorce is everywhere in people's childhoods.
Yes.
So I don't like that he only picked Rachel, but I also don't like that he made it Rachel's decision. And I'm really glad the author put into her narration, what the crap, Dad? I'm a kid. Why am I having to make these really, really adult decisions and you can just be in the background like, oh, it's whatever.
Yeah, but what do you want him to do? Force her to go?
No, but I think they should have a conversation with the mom and they work it out and then approach the kids and be like, here are some options, but not make her make the decision.
If he could approach the mom, I don't think they'd be divorced. I think that's the issue.
Still.
I know it sucks and it happens a lot, but this is just how it happens. He can't force her to go. He wants her to go. So he has to say, it's your decision. I mean, there's no other way around that. I know it sucks to be put on her, but that's just why divorce sucks.
I was not a fan of him.
Fair. Do you think it relates to your own going through that situation kind of feeling?
My situation was definitely different.
Different, yeah.
I had divorced parents, but I was primarily with my mom.
Because I went through a different situation, and I went to spend summers with my dad when he lived on the other side of the country, and then I spent most of the year with my mom. And I guess maybe that's why I'm seeing it not so harshly, because I kind of see his perspective. I know how sad my dad was that we tended to always be with my mom, which makes sense. My mom, I don't know, maybe because of that background I have, I kind of looked at that scene and was more sympathetic to him.
Yeah. Well, I just imagined me, myself, as a child, if my dad came up to me and was like, hey, we're moving, but you could totally live with us. But I don't know, it's the way he phrased it where it felt like it was completely on her and he was trying to sell her on it, but the decision either way was going to be on her shoulders. I don't know. I just didn't like that. And Rachel agreed, so.
Yeah, well, Rachel was also going through a lot of other stuff.
A lot. Kind of parallel storylines.
If she wasn't an Animorph, and this is a big plot of the book, if she wasn't an Animorph, she probably would have went with her dad. But because she has responsibilities to save the planet, and problem is she doesn't want to hurt her dad's feelings, and she kind of loves the idea of maybe getting a chance to escape it all. And as you said, that parallels because we learned that the Animorphs are given a similar choice that she's given. She sees this opportunity to leave with her dad as an escape from all her problems, and the Animorphs get presented with an opportunity to escape all of their woes.
There are some decent things for Rachel going. If she went, there's this gymnastics coach that would be really, really good for her, even though it doesn't sound like Rachel really wants to go pro with it, but that's beside the point. But there would be this really good gymnastics coach, and it's the city, and she's kind of excited about that. But yeah, she just views it as she would be quitting the fight, which is fair. Her fight is there. That is where they have the most hold. If she leaves that and tried to fight on her own, that would be awful. How would she even begin with that?
Also, there's a sense that the Yeerk's home base is in whatever city they are in on the West Coast. So
yeah, because Visser 3 is there.
He's there. The main Yeerk pool is there. So her going to, I'm going to say Colorado. I can't even remember if they mentioned a state, but
I think it was Chicago. It was a city.
Or something. I think there wouldn't really be any activity. She would literally be stepping away from it to the main fight.
It sounded like it was on the other side of the country because she's mentioned it being like hours and hours away. And so maybe they don't say it, but in my mind, I was like, oh, California to Chicago, that would be about.
Oh, my mind, it was Colorado. I can't remember. But anyways, so yeah, she's got that dilemma. And then they go down into the Yeerk pool as roaches. And as they're going along, they're looking for an area where they could be hiding this machine.
Or any information about it.
Exactly. And they see a cafeteria, I believe, mainly because the roach can smell the dirty food. So they scurry into there, and while they're in there, one of the worm-like creatures the Yeerks use, called a taxon.
Hate.
Yes, they're disgusting because they love to eat all the time, and they're just like a giant worm.
Learning about their tongue was only slightly less bad than learning they can swim.
Yes. Yeah, that book. But yeah, a taxon because it sees the roaches, it spits its tongue out to eat, and it has all of the Animorphs stuck to its tongue. As it's slurping them up, suddenly time freezes. And so they begin to demorph without them wanting to. Their bodies begin to turn back into human. When they wander out of the cafeteria, they find Tobias there in human form.
He wasn't even in there with them.
And that's when they hear a voice and a old man basically appears.
The Elemist.
Yes, which Axe is familiar with. He tells them that on the Andalite homeworld, they have fairy tales about him. It would be like if there was an alien species called genies or djinns. We know they're all powerful, can manipulate reality, so on and so forth. So Axe knows them from Andalite fairy tales, and he's skeptical of them. He's like, this guy always has a trick up his sleeve.
They're always looking out for number one.
Exactly. It'd be like our fairy tales, like, don't make a wish with the genie because you got to be careful with what you wish for, because it's like a monkey paw situation where your wish,
it'll be twisted.
Exactly. You say, I want to be the richest man in the world, and then suddenly the economy crashes and your $5 is the most money in the world or something silly like that, right? So Axe is skeptical, but the Elemist basically tells them that he loves the planet Earth, he loves human beings, but the problem is he basically tells them, you guys are going to lose. It's inevitable. You're not going to win this battle, and I don't like that. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take you guys and your families, and I would like to transport them to a secret world where you will be able to preserve humanity from the Yeerks. So it's basically Rachel's situation. The Elemist is like Rachel's dad, offering them a way out to escape all the war and battle and be able to hide out and get away from it all.
Which I know you didn't like the book, but in my defense for the Numina series,
yes,
when I said that this feels like adult Animorphs, this exact thing comes up in the second book.
It does, yeah, it is a plot.
The aliens are coming and you guys will never survive, so let's make a planet with a couple of humans so we can keep humanity alive.
Yes, which I'm sure Applegate and what was the name of the author of the Numa?
Lindsay Ellis.
Sci-fi is an interesting genre where I would imagine there's an older book that either either hints at this kind of plot point or has done it before, because sci-fi loves borrowing similar tropes.
We know that Lindsay loves Transformers, but I would not be surprised if she also loved Animorphs. Continue.
That's true. Maybe she got it from then.
Because she's your age.
Yeah, I was about maybe subconsciously she got it from Animorphs, because I gotta be honest though, I forgot this plot point. There's gonna be lots of things in this series that it's been a couple years since I read. I forgot plot points.
It's a lot of books.
I did not recall that's what the Ellimist, because spoiler, this is not the last time we see this character. He's actually a big part of this series, the Ellimist. He's not just a one-off or anything like that. He's actually a vital part to this whole story. You just don't see it yet. So there's a lot of other stuff about this guy I remember that kind of pushed out the fact that, oh yeah, he did approach them and offer to take them to another planet.
And unfortunately, now that Marco's on board with the whole Animorphs thing, Cassie has taken his place as no, we shouldn't fight anymore. And it just, Cassie, shut up.
But I do appreciate the author has logic behind why she does, because she deals with animals. She's like, guys, we're the animals. We're the hawk in the cage at my barn that's broken its wing. We want to go back out into the wild, but we humans know better that we will never recover from this wing. She's trying to explain the Ellimist knows better. He sees everything. He's saying we're going to lose. We're like the hawk that refuses to save itself. So at least there's logic, but yeah, I'd have to agree. It is a little annoying how she has to take Marcos' spot.
There is logic, but her taking this track directly contradicts her book, where she finally finds the reason to fight is because they're going to destroy the planet. And now she's like, oh, it's fine. Humans should survive anyway. Like, you don't like humans. What are you talking about?
Except, I don't know. I think it still ties into that, because you remember she's like, oh, we got to save the Earth. She's saying the Ellimist already sees they lose. So she's thinking, let's save what we can and get out of here since it's inevitable. Because we know, because we read the whole book, it's not inevitable. Spoiler for later on in the book, we learn that the Ellimist doesn't really want to send them to another planet.
That dude's playing mind games.
Exactly. And he can't explain it yet. And you learn later in the book why he can't. He can't directly influence what they do. He can't come in and be like, hey guys, this is how you win, or obliterate all these Hork-Bazirs that are going to kill them. He can't directly do that. Everything he does has to be indirect. He does want them to win, but he can't just step in and do it himself. He has to indirectly influence them.
I'm wondering if a better comparison would be Fae instead of Genie, because you still have that whole, oh, we're so tricksters and we do our own thing and we have our own motivations. Sometimes we help you, sometimes we don't help you, but it's never direct. It's always like, we give you a magic item or a power. It's not them doing your thing.
I wouldn't say Fae. I would actually maybe go with how the Greek gods are depicted and say like the Trojan War. Zeus can't come down and smite the whole Trojan army.
No, that would mess with the betting pool.
Exactly. Because there's, and I don't want to spoil too much, there's other gods that would oppose this. Basically, the Ellimist is opposed to another force, and they both agree they can't directly influence the battle. I guess it's not too much, because you already kind of introduced the confusing end of book 6, where Jake sees some entity with a disturbing eye staring at him.
Sauron.
Exactly. And Applegate did say she was heavily inspired. You know, she's a big fan of Lord of the Rings, but it really is like Sauron versus the good forces in Middle Earth. The Ellimist is the good side, and this evil entity we haven't met yet is the bad side, and they've made an agreement they both can't directly come in and change what happens.
It's like Crash Bandicoot.
Exactly. So it is like the Trojan War, where the gods can't directly intervene, but they can do things to try to tip things in their favor. So the Ellimist is presenting the group like they have an option, but really he's secretly trying to show them things indirectly to help them avoid this future where they lose.
I get it. They need someone to be like, but have we considered the other side? So the child that is reading this has multiple perspectives and can hopefully help with their critical thinking skills. But I hated when Marco did this, and I hate it when Cassie does it.
I mean, that's fair. If you don't like I understand it. I mean, if I was a child soldier, everything was doomed.
I'm a Rachel. I can't.
Well, except Rachel, they just assume when everyone's deciding, and Cassie's maybe we should do this, and everyone else is basically, no, we shouldn't. Marcos makes the comment, well, of course, Rachel's against this. And Rachel's like, am I? Inside, she's like, I'm supposed to be this tough person, but really, I just want out.
And I appreciated that.
Yes, which really is how everyone feels, because eventually in the book, they get so downtrodden and we don't want to do this anymore, because what's the point?
They say yes, and then nothing happens.
And nothing happens. Yeah. And they're confused by that. That's because, and I think it's after they get a vision of the future and they're like, oh, well, we saw the future. We're going to lose. So let's just go ahead and do this. And the Ellimist does nothing. And they're like, why didn't he transport it? And they remember back to the scene because what happens is since the Ellimist has frozen time and demorphed him to explain their situation and explain his offer, he says they can think about it for a while, even though they said no. But he says, if you don't accept, I'm going to send you exactly back where you were, which was on the tongue of that Taxon about to be eaten. So they're like, oh, crap, if we don't accept this now, we're also going to go back and probably die in this situation. But that's when Jake notices and hints to the group that since they're outside of the cafeteria in human form and able to look around, they notice an elevator shaft, a like gravitational tube that sucks you back up to the surface.
And they're like, if we can get there, we're good.
Exactly.
So we need to do what we need to do.
Exactly. So they reject it. They get sent back to the tongue. And this is where the gory scene comes from, that the one woman who mentioned she was reading it to her son. This is when she decided maybe this is too much for a kid.
Classic, you get eaten by a thing and then you make yourself bigger and then the thing can't hold you in their stomach anymore.
Exactly. This was Ant-Man and Thanos before Ant-Man and Thanos, if you know that situation.
Oh, I remember it growing up too, like in cartoons and stuff.
What I'm asking is, do you know the joke that was on the internet for a while about how Ant-Man can defeat Thanos?
Yes.
Okay, so they burst out of the Taxon, morphing. They're covered in slime and guts. Everyone in the cafeteria, there's a moment where they all kind of in shock stare, and then they all attack. So they begin to morph into their battle morphs, and they fight their way out of the... And I think this is when Rachel, before they went down there, she decided to acquire the grizzly bear.
Yes.
Because this is where she decides to do the morph. And the problem with that is when you do a morph for the first time, it's a little jolting. They explain constantly in the book.
Animal instincts.
Exactly. You are given the instincts of the animal. And if it's the first time morphing it, you may not be able to control it at first because it's new to you.
And at first it's great. It's aggressive and wants to attack everything, but then it's aggressive and wants to attack everything.
AKA when Rachel comes back to her senses, they're in the gravity elevator and her bear is trying to kill Jake's tiger.
But I want to call her out so bad on this. They're still in there. They're trying to get out and she's telling Jake to get ahead of her. And she's like, Jake, 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 Jake. And I'm like, stop saying his name.
I know, I hate There's so many times in this book. As a kid, I didn't care, but as an adult, there's so many times they should have been caught. None of the Yeerks noticed, even though they were covered in slime and guts, that a bunch of humans burst out of a Taxon, right?
Why are they on two legs? That is the question.
All of these times they've intimidated humans in their morphs, like at the beginning of the book when Rachel intimidates the elephant handler in her morph, that they don't risk that person becoming a Yeerk and that Yeerk going back through the memories and being like, wait a minute, that wasn't an Andalite. There's so many times they should have been caught.
Or they had no ramifications for the used car sale thing. Like nothing happened at that. It just brushed away.
So yeah, as an adult, I'm like, there's quite a few plot points in that regard. They totally are being sloppy. And well, like this instance where they will say names to each other. Do Yeerks not? They have the ability to go through zero space, but they don't have the ability to set up cameras in places and catch them morphing or talking like humans.
It's ridiculous. Set a trap like that, yeah. So yeah, they're really struggling with the Ellimist question.
Yeah, so they escape, and now they have this dilemma.
Here's the funny thing.
Yes.
So the Ellimist, they keep being on the fence about it. So the Ellimist is like, fine, I'm going to show you the future. And so he sends them to the future, quote unquote. And I just want to point out, joke's on you, Ellimist, Sears doesn't exist anymore.
Well, neither does that future.
Sears needed the Yeerks to survive.
I guess so. Anyways, the Ellimist at one point in the book shows them the future. He sends them to the future because the Ellimist exists in another dimension. Time to him is all at once.
Wibbly wobbly.
Exactly. So he knows the future currently as it stands, and he sends them to this future, and they see the world as it would be if the Yeerks win.
It's bleak.
Everything's dead.
Visser 3 has become Visser 1, and Rachel's working with him.
Exactly. It's a big reveal. They're wandering around, figuring out the world, pretending to be human controllers, because there's no such thing as a non-human controller at this point, because the whole world has been conquered, right? Buildings have become run down because the Yeerks only use the bare minimum of buildings. They go down a tube to downtown, and they see the Yeerk pool that's always been underground suddenly above ground. And there's a giant tower that's fortified, looming over this Yeerk pool. And they get to the Yeerk pool, and that's when a craft comes down and off steps Visser 1 now. Visser 3 has become Visser 1, and Rachel, and an adult Rachel, steps off, and she is a controller. They step off and basically like, we knew you'd be here because, she got infected, and we knew the Elemist was going to send you guys to this future.
Which proves that it's real. It's not just an illusion.
Exactly. You are actually in the future. It seems pretty bleak until they notice something. They notice that, I think Rachel, the adult Rachel, is a controller now. She seems nervous, and that's when they realize that Axe isn't supposed to be there. So something's different, and they're like, that's not right. Basically, they realize in this moment, because they didn't expect Axe to be there, that this future isn't a guarantee.
Yeah. But even with that, they go back to the present, and they're still like, nah, we're out. Peace.
And that's when the Elemist doesn't do anything. And then they have to think about it for a while. And I think it's Rachel that suddenly realizes.
Yeah, so they go home and Rachel realizes that the Elemist was truly trying to show them that why is that skyscraper still there? They leveled everything else. Why is that still there?
And that's when they realize that that skyscraper is where the device that they've been looking for, that they know if they destroy it, it's going to really hinder the Yeerks for a while. The Elemist just trying to show them the elevator shaft was showing them where they could go to destroy this device and hopefully change the future where they don't lose.
And so they go to the place. There's a bloody battle. Rachel shoves the Cadrona ray thingy out the window.
Out the window, yep.
And she ends up deciding, I'm going to stay, I'm going to fight. And they realize they probably have about 3 weeks of Yeerk suffering from this because it's going to take 3 weeks for it to be replaced.
Exactly. Before they can get a new device, though, the pull is useless and they're going to have to be shuttling controllers up and down to the mothership, to its device. And the problem with that is they can't do that for everyone. So we see in the next few books where some of the Yeerks who aren't important enough begin to starve and causing problems where there's humans beginning to snap out of their control and get rid of their Yeerks and tell the world about the Yeerks. Though we learn about that in book 8, how that isn't a good thing for the poor humans who have been controllers. They tend to get...
Yeah.
So, moving on to Megamorphs number 1, the Andalite's Gift. This is the first one in the series where we get a perspective from each of the Animorphs.
Do we get Axe's perspective?
We do. So this is technically the first time we hear from Axe, because this comes before his book.
That's right, that's right.
But yeah, it's an okay one. You've only read this one so far. I've read the other Megamorphs. This one is forgettable once you get to the other side one. So we have the main series that goes through 1 through 54. I believe it's 54 or 52, one of those. But we also have these spin-off novels that'll come up, and usually they are killer. I'm super excited because the next one after this is going to be the Andalite Chronicles, which is one of my favorite. So in retrospect, looking at all of them, this one's kind of low on the totem pole for me. It's kind of forgettable to me, honestly. What do you think of it, though, just standing on its own?
Well, the only experience I really have of this kind of book is not even so much reading them, but knowing of the concept of the Babysitter's Club and the Nancy Drew 80s mega mysteries. And I know the Babysitter's Club kind of splits it up, and each girl has a plot, or they share a plot, and so their chapters are their plot line. It's kind of separated, but they're all in one place. And then for Nancy Drew, a lot of the times it's like the same plot, it's the same mystery, but they'll have different scenes and stuff. So I guess I was expecting it to be more separated, especially when it starts out with Rachel is going to a gymnast thing and everyone's staying here, and Jake and Cassie are going to go to a pool party, but Marco can't go, so he's hanging out with Axe. So I thought it would be more separated.
Yeah, you were thinking it'd be more of a hard A storyline, B storyline that don't intersect at all.
Yeah, after like 5 chapters, it's all the same plot line.
Oh, yeah. There's no A plot and B plot. There's this is happening with this character and this is happening with this character, where it's all related to the same plot, basically.
So I think that the thing that surprised me the most in this, and it felt a little bit out of series, maybe it's different later on, but I feel like up to this point, the Yeerks have been really subtle.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, Cloud Monster.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe, I don't know if it was intentional by the authors, but maybe it was due to the fact that they hit them so hard in the 7th book by destroying their Cadrona ray device and putting them in a sore spot, which is shown a little bit because there's a scene where Rachel runs into this homeless lady in the woods, and at first she thinks she's just normal crazy, and then she starts mentioning Yeerks and stuff, and you realize she's a controller, that her Yeerk had died in her head and she's been released, but now is scarred and mentally unstable from it.
And can't trust anyone.
Yeah, exactly. So there's inklings, and it's definitely in the 8th book as well, where it really starts to show, which we'll get to in a bit. But yeah, they're being a little bit more blasé here because they literally release a tornado with teeth and claws out into the world to hunt down these Andalite scum, as Visser 3 would say.
It's so crazy what a shift of a modus operandum, because literally, what has the past been? It's like, oh, we want to take over the governor, so we need to take over the hospital, so when he gets surgery, we're going to put a Yeerk in him and no one's going to notice. And we should form these clubs where people are so happy and then they become a Yeerk. You guys have done so much stuff to move in the shadows, to move in silence, just for you to be like, and here's a giant monster to destroy everyone.
And again, it might be that Visser 3 has finally lost it. If you recall in the 7th book, they don't have much of a religion, so the Cadrona ray device is sort of their culture. It's their center point. It's one of the most important things to them.
Because it literally keeps them alive.
Exactly. It'd be like aliens come and blow up St. Petersburg. There'd be a lot of pissed off Catholics that want revenge. I guess Visser 3 just finally lost it, decided to finally implement this. So he finds this creature that the Animorphs slowly find out throughout the novel that...
From Saturn.
Saturn, yeah. He found it on one of our planets.
Which I have so many questions because of this. What do they eat? What do they eat on Saturn? I guess it's energy.
Yeah, because that's what it explains. Visser 3 finds this creature that eats energy, and the Yeerks train it.
Why does it have so many teeth if it can eat energy? I have questions.
Well, it just describes teeth. It seems it can just chew through anything. So I don't know.
Maybe it's because rocks?
Yeah, maybe. They don't go into exactly detail of its natural environment. All they share is that it eats energy. Visser 3 and the Yeerks train it to go after the energy that's released when you're morphing.
Which I have so many questions about that too.
But feed it off the energy that comes off of their ship's engines. So it's like a dog getting a duck. You train the dog to go retrieve the duck, but you don't want the dog to eat or hurt the duck. So you train it that if it gets the duck just right, you'll give it food or a treat. That's what this thing does.
But with that, just to go on this a little bit longer because I had so many thoughts, they don't have any Animorphs to train it on. Did they just train it on Visser 3, hoping, well, hopefully he won't actually kill me while we train?
I never thought of that. That's a good point. I'm not sure. Maybe they had a device that imitates morphing energy, but that is a good question.
So many questions about this. You can't think too hard about this.
Yeah, I know, and I hate it because now when I look at it as an adult, there's little things like it bugs me that Axe doesn't speak in thought speak. Like even in the 8th book, he mentions, when I'm in human morph, I can't use thought speak. And I'm like, why? Why? When you're in dog form, you can still bark and use thought speech. When you're a gorilla, you can still sign and use thought speech. You're in another animal's body
that's not your own.
Yeah, exactly. Who cares if humans have the ability to speak? It shouldn't take away your thought speech. You should be able to still speak with your thought speech. And then I took it further and think, well, why can't the Animorphs just always use thought speech, right? I feel like if they got this ability from the Andalites to morph, I think a residual of that, something that a side effect is they have the ability to now thought speak to each other.
Because that would be too convenient.
It would be too convenient. As little things like that bug me. I was like, why can't they do that? And why does Axe suddenly lose the ability of the thought speech just because he's in a human body?
I do agree with the Axe very strongly, because if you think about it, what's the difference? Oh, they can speak from their mouths. Well, so can dogs. Dogs can communicate with their mouths. Cats can communicate with their mouths. Why do they get thought speech?
Exactly. So as an adult, I see that a lot more clearly than I did as a kid. But it doesn't really destroy the whole, like you pointing out, how did they train this thing? Yeah, that's a good little plot hole to kind of tease at, but it doesn't really ruin the story as a whole, though, in my opinion.
No, like I said, you just can't think too hard about it.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing. They must think we're real dumb. Like dumb.
Who's they?
Sorry. The Yeerks must think we're super dumb. And maybe because before social media and before there are forums for conspiracy theorists to hype each other up, but we have conspiracy theories about literally nothing. And you're out here like, here's a tornado who randomly formed on a sunny day and destroyed one house. And it's like, no, it's fine. We have people in the news stations. They'll believe it. And it keeps happening happening over and over again.
Yeah, there's a small side plot where Cassie morphs into a fly to listen to Chapman. And that's where we get the context that there's people in the police force, people in the news, they're going to try to suppress it. But Visser 3 definitely wants this Valik, is what it's called eventually, that they learn, this dust monster from Saturn, to hunt them down and capture them all.
Well, the more interesting plot line to me, I mean, that's like, oh no, boogeyman, but action scenes, there's not much else you can do with that. Rachel loses her memory?
Yeah, she's about to go on this trip to a gymnastics camp.
And the situation ends up where the gymnastics camp doesn't think she's coming, and her parents think she is going, and her friends think she's going, but she's like, I'm gonna go fly around and talk to Tobias about stuff. And she goes, and as an eagle, she is attacked by these two other birds trying to protect their nest, and she just like straight up runs into a tree and then falls on the ground, which I have more questions about because she passes out in a half morph. Did that happen within the 2 hours, or is that enough to not count for the clock? What is happening?
I'm assuming it was within the 2 hours.
It has to have been.
It has to be. Not much time was burnt by her flying up and going to Tobias's field. And I think when she woke up, it had to be around an hour, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a head doctor, nor do I think this book is trying to be it's leaning into a trope that TVs and movies do all the time, the amnesia trope.
Yeah.
Because, in reality, if you hit your head hard enough to lose memory, there's a lot more going on than just give it a little bit and your memories will come back and everything's fine.
She would have such a bad headache.
I was about to say you might have like long-term damage, but not for the book. She's fine. Once she gets her memory back, everything's good.
Yeah, so TBIs are really interesting. I learned about them because I got one in 2019. So TBI is a traumatic brain injury, so like a concussion or whatever. And so if she got hit hard enough to lose memory, there would definitely be other side effects, such as headaches when you're trying to think. You can have some personality changes that happen where you're like one way and then you act like something else because your brain is lying to you about what your personality is. There's just a bunch of things that can potentially be, and it's long term. TBIs take a really long time to heal, especially for women, which they think that's because there's more neural pathway connections for women. So it takes longer to get all of those back up and running. So I got one and it took like 3 months for it to actually heal. It was a weird time. It was a frontal and a back one. And so for like a week, I felt like I was hungover. It was a whole thing. So yes, granted, this is the 90s and we didn't have as much research about concussions as we do now. But in the real world, a lot more things would be going on. But like you said, this is the fun trope. This is the TV amnesia, which for all intents and purposes, she does treat correctly. And when you lose memories, it's not because you lost memories. It's because you lost the neural pathways to those memories. And so little things will start to trigger those connections, but they won't fully form. And so it's like, oh, I can get snippets of my brain, but I can't get more. And I can't access it when I want to, but I know it's there. And so that was actually pretty accurate.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how she ends up running into a crazy woman who locks her in a basement.
Yeah. She's kind of wandering around, running into things, trying to figure out what's going on. While the main Animorphs are at a pool party, Marcos isn't invited. Jake and Cassie are.
But you come to find out Marco is the worst.
Well, no, he's not. He's just a little boy. He's not invited because when they were younger, he made a poop joke about the pool by throwing a candy bar in it and joking that it was, it's juvenile, right? Well, the girl who's hosting the pool party definitely doesn't want to invite him because of that. So Marcos's friends are invited, but he's not. So Marcos convinces Axe to morph into a mouse with him and to go crash, kind of eavesdrop on the party. But when he eavesdrops on the girl and hears her trashing him.
Barely.
I don't know. It was pretty scathing.
Well, I'm laughing because of what actually sets him off. Because let's be so honest, if he did that joke and then had a complete change in personality and wasn't still, oh, I'm so funny, I'm a jokester, if serious things are funny, she's like, okay, you haven't changed, so I'm not going to invite you. But it's funny because she does say some really mean things about him, but what gets him, and when he's like, I'm going to attack you, is she's like, he's not funny.
Yeah, that's the breaking point. Like, Marcos is like, I'll take everything else, but I won't take hearing you say I'm not funny.
This is my trauma response. How dare you?
So Marcos and Axe proceed to scare her because they're mice, and Jake and Cassie are like immediately, something's off, this has got to be Marcos. And if there's two of them, he's probably dragged Axe into into it because Rachel's gone. So Jake and Cassie try to rescue the mice, but Marcos and Axe chase her into the house. They go to the basement and are like, okay, we're going to have to morph. So when they start morphing, that's when the creature attacks. It's described like the wind and the tornado at first, but then you can very clearly see gnashing teeth and claw-like stuff in this whirlwind, and it proceeds to chew up the house that this girl owns, trying to get to Axe and Marcos. And they just barely escape because once the house is ripped open, they're done morphing, and the creature's confused because it can't sense the energy anymore.
But let's be so honest, the way Jake's chapter ends is I tried to get inside, but I wasn't able to, and that saved my life. And then you get to the next chapter, I think it's Marco's chapter, where he's like, and we went to the basement and we demorphed and the entire house was gone. And I was like, did they just kill the birthday girl? They didn't. Later you see her on TV with her parents, but I was like, wait, that's a little extra.
Yeah, logistic wise, I just accept what they say. Maybe she was in another part of the house.
No, I'm totally fine with it, but they don't follow up with it until much later when they're on the news. And I'm like, oh, okay, she's not dead.
But yeah, so they don't figure it out at first. They think it's weird. And then I think they slowly begin to realize because who starts to morph? Oh, they're watching the news and they see what they think is Rachel and they're suspect. Like, what's going on?
On the highway near a crash.
Yeah, because the creature went towards, because I think she was morphing and it destroyed a truck. So they see her. So like, well, we need to hunt her down. So they morph into wolves. And as they're morphing into wolves, that's when the creature shows back up.
And yeah, at some point they piece together, okay, it's morphing.
It's our morphing that's capturing. So they're trying to find Rachel because they suspect she's out there and they don't know why she hasn't come back to them. They don't realize she has amnesia. And that's when they eventually figure it's mainly Tobias who figures it out because they say it's like a predator. If Tobias was hunting a mouse and the mouse he was chasing suddenly stopped and stood still and the mouse next to him suddenly took off, Tobias said he would change to the mouse who's moving because the movement would cause him to attack the new target. It says morphing is like that.
Yeah, so the way their eyes work, they seek movement. They have more cones and rods, so they don't really see color as well, but they see movement really well. And so when something stops, it's almost like he can't see it anymore. And so whatever's moving is what he's going to go to. And that works out because the thing is trained to eat energy. And so once you stop, there's no energy for him to track. And he's not hunting by looking at something. He's hunting by sensing it. And so it just goes wherever the energy is so it can eat.
Exactly. So once they figure that out, they realize they can play tag with the thing where once one person starts to morph, it'll go to them, but then another person will start and it'll go to them. The only issue with this is that morphing is very energy intensive. Like when you get to like your second or third morph in a row,
you're exhausted.
Yeah, you're exhausted. And the creature does not tire down. So they realize they can't play this game forever. Eventually they're going to get too tired and it's going to hunt them down. So they got to think of something else eventually. But what happens is when they run into Rachel, basically in their attempts to morph and lead and take it different ways, basically Marcos in gorilla form crashes a truck into Rachel, who's an elephant, with Cassie, I think, shows up as well, halfway to a squirrel morph.
Yeah.
And so there's three of them, and Cassie has this small moment, I thought it was a little needless, where she cowards out and it stops morphing so that the creature goes for someone else. And there's this mystery halfway through the book where like, who did the creature take up into the facility?
Axe gets kidnapped.
Marcos does. I forgot that before this, Axe he stumbles into Rachel in the woods and the creature sees him and he starts morphing. And the creature has already taken Axe up to Visser 3's ship.
Yep.
But this is the moment where he takes a second person, which is Marcos. So basically Marcos and Axe end up prisoners up in the ship, up in the sky.
Which, second time Marcos done this.
Yes.
Poor dude.
Yeah. What's funny, though, is Visser 3 has Axe in a little box that could go see-through and not. And he wants to show off bringing his friend to him. But little does Visser 3 know, Axe has picked up fleas living in the woods. That's how, actually, in the beginning, it's a funny foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah. She does a great job with it.
Yeah, where Marcos had convinced Axe to help him because he had a mysterious potion that will help get rid of all the pesky little pests that keep biting him. And Tobias is like, Marcos, did you blackmail Axe with flea powder? Are you kidding me? So basically, he has fleas, and Marcos tricked him into helping him for flea powder.
Which I just wanted to add here before Marco's taken, the funniest scene in the book. They're at the barn. Cassie's dad has an old pickup, and Marco's like, sure, I can drive. Narrator, he could not drive.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of really funny scenes of him just being terrible at driving and them giving a hard time of it. I don't remember who said it, but one of them is like, do you just hate trash cans?
I know.
You're hitting way too many of them for it to be a coincidence at this point.
He would turn left, hit all the trash cans on that side, turn right, hit all the trash cans on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. But anyways, Axe had morphed into a flea, so when Visser 3 causes the prison to show through again, be see-through, it looks like the Andalite disappeared, and out of their stupidity, they open the box up, and Visser 3's like, close it, he's clearly an animal that's too small, and it's too late. Axe jumps out of the box.
But it's at this point that Axe realizes the Yeerk is not one big creature, but a ton of tiny creatures.
Yes, because when he's a flea, he's small enough to see them, and it's not a creature made of dust. It's actually all little itty-bitty little bugs.
So this is the point where the book turns into signs. Oh no, this evil alien creature comes to Earth and is susceptible to water.
Don't do that. This is so much better than Signs. Signs was so stupid. You can't have an intergalactic speed. It'd be like saying the Yeerks were weak to water. Signs, don't get me on my M. Night Shyamalan rant.
Why the heck did Visser 3 bring him here if he could totally be destroyed if it suddenly started raining?
Well, I mean, it's still pretty powerful, but yeah, just don't sit it out in the rain. But yeah, they figure out because Axe gets on Visser 3's body as a flea, he tells Marcos to go ahead and open a door when the chaos starts, and he begins to demorph, and because the creature senses morphing, it proceeds to attack Visser 3. That's when Marcos and Axe escape. Axe leaps onto Marcos and they jump off the ship. But before they leave, they hear Visser 3 scream, water, get water, and Axe sees it, that when you spray the creature with water, it begins to dissipate, basically.
So because Cassie was a coward earlier, she's now like, I have to be the hero in this. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good, Cassie. Still not my favorite narrator, but I mean, good. But they get a whale DNA, which is fun. I'm surprised they didn't get that earlier when they rode a whale, but okay.
But that was during the book where Cassie had the whole, is this right to acquire animal DNA? That never gets brought up ever again.
I'm just surprised the others didn't.
Yeah, well.
I'd be getting literally everything, every chance I got.
Because what they realized earlier in the book, when Rachel was in elephant form, the creature tried to take Rachel, but Rachel was too heavy and couldn't pick her up. So they realized the creature has a weight limit. There's a certain weight that it struggles to pick up. And they're like, well, there's one weight it definitely can't handle, and that's a whale. So they basically acquire the whale, lure it out with morphing. Cassie gets taken high up into the air by Tobias. She proceeds to demorph out of her squirrel or something.
She's something small.
Something small to just be, I think, a roach. Yeah, it was a roach. She becomes a roach, gets on Tobias. Tobias takes her up in the air. The others distract the creature with their morphing. She proceeds to demorph out of a roach. The creature grabs her, but she then proceeds to morph into a whale.
And so it pulls him in and he gets disintegrated, basically. It's fine. It works out.
Yeah, because he wrapped around her when she was human. When she became whale, he was basically stuck around her, and she just smashes him into the ocean and obliterates all the little insects.
And this is why we don't skip arm day.
But yeah, it's fun. It's little moments, lots of action, as she said. Like, one of my favorite parts we didn't mention before is when Marcos and Axe jump off of the ship. Marcos like, oh crap, we're plummeting to the earth, and I'm a gorilla. So they have to demorph out of their flea and gorilla morph. And then they're like, oh crap, I'm a human being and Andalite going towards the earth. So they have to morph into birds. He describes getting closer and closer. It's like, oh, the people in the parking lot look like ants, and now they look like little people. And now I can literally see in half my bird morph, the sweat on their brow. And then he just barely misses smacking into the earth.
Yeah, it's a lot of action.
A lot of action.
Which, by the way, before we move on to the next book, I have a conspiracy theory.
Okay, what's your conspiracy theory?
So I don't think the lady in the woods, the crazy lady that used to be a controller, recently got away. I don't think it's recent. I don't think it's within the last 3 weeks because she has too much of a setup going on there, right?
Yeah.
My conspiracy is she's the woman they released in the first book.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if she's even brought up again. I don't think she is.
You said she wasn't.
I don't believe she is. So that was my kind of thought too as a kid. Like, thought it again when I was rereading. I was like, is this the woman they rescued? Because you never really learn about that woman. Like, what happened to her? She couldn't go back to normal after that. She couldn't go back to her life.
Yeah, but it's been months and months. And so it makes sense that she found this cabin in the woods and the way she's living and how she's kind of let her appearance go and stuff. That's my conspiracy.
Yeah, that's a good theory. As far as I remember, they don't ever return back to that woman in the woods or the woman they rescued in the first book.
But yes, that book, well, no, I was wondering if they were going to acknowledge this book in the main series just because of how off the wall it is.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, no, the next book immediately, like, we destroyed the Kandrona and we destroyed the Velik monster.
Yeah, the Velik. I think it's Velik because there's two E's after the L.
Yes, Veleek.
Velik would be my guess because the two E's makes me think you have to do a longer E.
Who knows? It's an alien.
Who knows? It's a made-up word. Who knows if she ever told us how it's pronounced?
Maybe if that TV show really kicked off.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Don't even get me started about that again.
But that gets us into book 8, which we get a little prologue where we see the last battle of the Andalites in the sky from Axe's perspective, and then how he kind of got in that dome that got knocked off and sent to Earth and got plunged into the ocean. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a tease, because all you know about Elfangor so far is he's this benevolent alien that came down and was dying, and these kids just revere him so much. And now you have his brother who reveres him, of course, too. But then you kind of see a new aspect of him where you get to see him before all this goes down.
And apparently what he did was a big no-no.
Yeah, it was immensely. We learned that in this book. And I call it a tease because when we get to it, I think it's after book 13, the Andalite Chronicles is basically Elfangor's story. We get background on him and what his whole deal is. And you learn a little bit more why he was so okay and willing to give morphing to these humans. Because we learn from Axe that Elfangor is a big deal in the Andalite community. He's a huge warrior. He's done all these great things. Axe feels like he's never going to live up to his brother's legacy. And he feels a little lost in his shadow. And that comes into play in this book because, a little spoiler about the ending of it, Axe basically, when he makes contact with his home world and tells them that Elfangor gave humans the ability to morph.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Yeah, the authority figure he talks to says, no, he didn't. You gave it to him, right? And Axe realizes they want him to take the fall for it. So Elfangor's legacy.
Because he wasn't a prince. And so he can be like, oh, we forgive you because you're lower.
Basically, an honored death sentence. Axe will never be anything great in the Andalite community.
But then he's saved his brother's reputation because if he did that as a prince, he would be stripped of all his stuff. And even in death, you know, it would cause a really big issue.
Yeah. So that comes into play. That's why I like the beginning, because it shows how Axe is all the younger brother. He feels lost in Elfangor's shadow. Is he ever going to be a great warrior like him?
It really develops their personality, so it makes sense that he does what he does.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a big part of the book, but I'm getting ahead. So let's start with the beginning again.
Well, Axe wants to go see a movie, but he gets bored of the movie and then starts eating everyone's chocolate, including the floor ones, and trying to take it from literal children. Axe has no impulse control. I understand chocolate's amazing, but just to go up to somebody and be like, I just wanted to eat your chocolate. Like, dude, they also wanted to eat their chocolate.
And I like what Applegate's doing here because she's thinking, okay, what makes humans unique? What is something we do that is different from other animals?
There is no cheetah top chef. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Most animals, their taste bugs do the bare minimum. I think even it's mentioned once, Tobias, there's not much taste to the rats he eats or anything like that, right? But we humans, in order to avoid poisonous things and stuff like that, have developed really advanced taste buds. So I think that's what's overwhelming for Axe, a species that has no such thing as a mouth and never has. To be able to actually taste things is quite overwhelming for him.
Yeah. It does a really good job of setting him up as really impulsive, poor decision makings, very, like I said, kind of entitled, kind of me, because later on with all the stuff he does and the lies he keeps from the group, because that is the theme of the book, is they start to realize that Axe is keeping things from them and they don't want to hang out with Axe anymore if he's going to be like that.
They start getting offended from it. Axe, we're taking you to movies. There's a scene where they take him to school with him because he says he wants to learn more about about humans, but they start to notice that they're sharing everything about their species with him, but he shares nothing important about his.
Which, please tell me, in the 90s, was it possible, like, if you hung out with your cousins for a week, to just go to their school?
I think so. I mean, this is pre all the woes we had after Columbine, unfortunately.
And 9/11, honestly, too.
And 9/11.
So I was just curious, is this like the Friends thing where I don't remember who was dropping who off, but they both walked straight to the gate, even though one of them doesn't have a ticket, and then they say goodbye there, and then the other person just leaves, and you're like, oh my goodness, that would never happen today? Or is this just an insane situation?
I think basically, yeah, exactly what you just said. It's pre 9/11, pre all the unfortunate things that happen at schools lately. So yeah, I guess you could just do that. But yeah, Axe just tags along with Jake and pretends to be his cousin at their school. But that basically, Axe visiting sets off the plot that isn't Axe's dilemma, which is how much do I want to share with these humans? It sets off the plot.
Oh yeah, Yeerks have been dying randomly, and crazy people, crazy quote unquote, run around yelling about the Yeerks, and it happens to their teacher right in front of them.
Yes.
And everyone kind of leaves or runs off, but Jake walks over and comforts him, which immediately I was like, that's a dumb decision. What if he gets another controller?
Yeah.
But you come to find out, instead of getting another controller, they kill them?
Yeah, they kill him. Because we're skipping over when they went to the movies. When they get out of the movies, they have to drag Axe out early. They see another woman in the mall doing the same thing, freaking out because the Yeerk inside her head is dying. And all the Animorphs there are like, yay, we're winning. This is so good. All these people are going to be released from the Yeerks, and they're going to tell the truth to the world. But Axe is like, oh, he's thinking in his mind, these poor people, they don't realize what's going to happen to these people. And that's when Jake realizes, because Chapman shows up and shoos them away, that the same thing happens with the woman where controller pulls out a device and presses it to their head and they go silent. And that's when Jake turns to Axe and be like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Is she dead? And Axe is like, yeah, she's dead. Any controller that loses its Yeerk host is killed on the spot just to protect them. Which I think they're doing that because
they don't have enough Yeerks to take over.
Yeah, well, not just that. They're low staff because they had to basically decide which Yeerks live and which Yeerks die.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
In my mind, I would be like, oh, just put another Yeerk in it, but they're all dying, so they can't.
Exactly.
So, due to a series of events, Axe ends up in Marco's house. It's because they want to go to the bookstore, but Axe forgot his money, so Marco needs to go get money.
Well, it's bigger than that. It's because Jake gets mad at Axe, but he's like, why aren't you sharing stuff with us? So it's like the next day or the day after that Marco shows up and says, Jake wants me to take you to a bookstore. He's too mad at you, but no, we still want to try to share stuff about our culture with you.
Marco's like, I've been selected as the delegate to be like, what the crap, man?
Yeah, which Marcos is playing it lightly, joking. That's what he does to diffuse tension. But he forgets his money, goes to his dad's house, and Marcos is eventually not going to be cool because Axe does something to his dad's computer.
Yeah, Axe thinks he's playing a game on the computer, and so he quote unquote plays it. But then it turns out it's actually a super, super crazy, insane coding that he just did that pushed their computer science ahead like 100 years.
Yeah, basically. It's like an algorithm or some kind of code. Marcos's dad's work freaks out because of how advanced it is, which Marcos has to convince his dad that Axe isn't smart, he's just stupid and was lucky and was messing with your computer like a cat walking across a keyboard and figuring out the code.
Yeah, so Axe has to destroy it because that's what Andalite law says. You can't help people like that.
He needs to destroy it, but also at the same time he realizes that what he just gave them would give him the ability to use their observation telescope thing and turn it into like a signaling device.
A transmitter.
A transmitter that would transmit through zero space, which is their version of hyperspace. She couldn't use hyperspace, so she called it zero space. I mean, she could have used hyperspace, but she didn't want to be just like Star Trek, so she made something unique. But it basically does the same thing.
Although it's a little funny that he was watching Star Trek earlier in the book, and he got bored of it.
The movie, yeah, he was watching the movie. He's like, this is all stupid. But he does make a funny joke. He's like, oh, that Vulcan looks exactly like this species. I thought that was kind of fun. But anyways, yeah, he realizes that he can use it's not a telescope, my bad, it's a satellite dish, to use and send a message through zero space, basically a message that would get there instantaneously instead of taking light years to get there. So he convinces Tobias to secretly help him get to the observatory.
Tobias has basically become his best friend because they are both not humans, and so they hang out a lot more. are than the humans.
Because it's been hinted Tobias has a real strong connection with Elfangor. Because of that, he kind of transfers it to Axe. He feels really close to the Andalites because he was a socially awkward kid. Just really good connection with them. Anyways, Tobias helps Axe sneak into the observatory to send the message, which Axe does. That's when the whole scene plays out where Axe basically agrees to take the fall for his brother Elfangor, and he's the one that gave the morphing ability, and he's the one that's disgraced.
Well, this is the plot twist. Oh my goodness. So Tobias is like, hey, there are actual people there. There are employees there. And so Tobias is like, hey, someone's leaving the meeting, and Axe is still in the middle of his transmission or whatever.
He's actually talking to his dad, which he does this whole ritual where because someone killed his brother, he has to do this oath to kill the person who killed his brother, which is Visser 3. So he's bound to even sacrifice his own life to kill Visser 3 is what he pledges to his father. After they do the oath, before he can even start talking to his dad for real, like, I love you and I miss you, that's when the connection's cut off. And
there's a human controller there, but instead of being like, haha, Andalite, I've got you now, he wants to team up and take down Visser 3. Because Visser 3 killed the only Yeerk he could ever care about.
Exactly. Yeah, he reveals that basically Visser 3 lied to him, said that no one's going to be lost. But then when I can't remember what happened, the Veleek, I think, or something happened, where then he basically began to choose which Yeerks were important and which Yeerks weren't. Because he worked at the planetarium, he was important, so he got spared. But because the Yeerk he loves was not in a host that was important, she basically got sacrificed. So he wants revenge.
Yeah, that was the whole thing with the Kandrona, where they had to pick and choose which Yeerks to save, and he was like, no one shall be lost, like you said. But yeah, plenty of people were lost. So what he ends up doing is giving Axe the time and place where Visser 3 eats like an Andalite.
Yeah.
But he's vulnerable during that time period, which ties into the whole thing with the humans being like, well, you never tell us anything. You don't even tell us how you eat.
Is a joke through the book. They keep asking him, and he keeps being like, I have hooves, don't I? And they're like, okay, don't tell us. Like, they don't get he's actually kind of telling them the answer. They just don't understand it.
That was the one thing I was like, guys, he's literally telling you.
Yeah. But yeah, because Visser 3, the Yeerk, is inside of an Andalite, that Andalite still needs to eat. So the Yeerk shares with him that there's a special field that Visser 3 always visits where he's vulnerable because he keeps everyone away from him. He's out in this open field, and he gives Axe this location and says, kill him, basically. And Axe realizes, if I do this, Visser 3 still has guards. I could kill him, but I also will die in the process.
Yes. So before this happens, Jake calls an intervention. They're like, this is your last chance. And Axe still doesn't want to tell him anything, which I feel like you get a partial truth at this point, but I guess they're a little Vulcan about it.
Marcos keeps saying, and the others kind of are thinking the same thing, they keep thinking, oh, it's because we're primitive humans. We're so primitive to you. You don't think we're worth sharing technology with. You just don't think we're smart enough to handle what you have to share. They take it offensively, like you think we're too dumb, which it's not that. If anything, Axe mentions throughout, he says humans are actually really quick at picking up on things. He points out how quickly, and this is a common trope in sci-fi, where humans are really fast at picking up technology. He's like, you know, the time between your first human flight to the time you went to the moon was only like 50 years, 60 years or something. It took us 3 times longer as Andalites. So if anything, he's saying the opposite of what Marcos and the others think, that humans are too dumb.
You're too smart.
You develop faster than the Yeerks or the Andalites ever have. So it's not that, but he won't tell them, and they get offended.
And so they're like, we're going to go our separate ways.
Exactly, which we're getting Axe's perspective. He's like, that's okay. He's thinking in his mind, because I'm about to die anyways, because he's not going to tell them about what the Yeerk shared with him. He's just going to try to do it himself.
So he goes to the place. He turns into a snake, which was also hinted at earlier.
What's important, though, is before he leaves, Tobias talks to him, and Axe explains that when your prince tells you to do something, you do it. And Tobias is like, oh, okay, that's interesting, which is the loophole Tobias uses later, because he made a promise not to reveal where Axe was going. But of course, they show up anyways to save Axe. And Axe is like, Tobias, you went back on our promise. And Tobias is like, no, you gave me the loophole. When your prince tells you to do something, you do it. Jake told me to tell everyone, so I told. Anyways, I'm getting a little ahead, sorry.
So yeah, he turns into a snake because they're very fast. He manages to bite Visser 3 several times. Like you said, that he's about to die. The other Animorph shows up, and it gets to the point where Visser 3 has to leave the Andalite body.
Yeah, he escapes into the nearby stream and flows down the river out of their grasp. We get to meet who Visser 3 controls.
We get to meet the Andalite, yeah.
Yeah.
And he reveals that the Yeerks have begun infiltrating the Andalite homeworld as well.
That's a bit of a, ooh, not good. We also learn his name. We also learn he's a war prince.
He's a big dude.
Yeah, and he also has a family still, because at first he tells them, please kill me. And Axe is like, I can't. You're not the one that's actually, it's Visser 3 I need to kill, not you. It's kind of a sad scene because he really wants them to kill him. And when he realizes they're not going to do it, he's like, fine, please tell my family that I still love them and I hope to be free one day. And it's like, gosh, this is rough.
Which I'm surprised they didn't fight harder to try to get him out, the Andalite, but that's...
I know, exactly. It's like they're escaping. It's another slight plot hole.
Yeah, I'm like, why'd you leave the body behind? Just take him with you. I don't know.
Not to mention, if he started to morph, the poison would leave his body. So I guess it's implied he's too weak to even do that. Like he's on the verge of death. Anyways, but he has to get left behind. But it's pretty messed up because you kind of see from his perspective, every evil thing that Visser 3 does, this person has to do it. And Visser 3 does some pretty messed up stuff.
So in the end, Axe decides to tell them the story of Zero? Because they keep mentioning it throughout the book.
Exactly. So throughout the book, he hints that it's because of Zero's law.
Or Zero's kindness.
Kindness, yeah. So after the Animorphs rescue him, and his eyes are opened a little bit more that he's doomed anyways because he's going to be dishonored anyways, he basically reveals to them a law that the Andalites have called Zero's kindness, where they're not allowed to share technology because Zero met this species, this slug-like species, that he felt sorry for because all they had were these weird little monkey things to inhabit on their home planet. And he thought they were pretty smart creatures, so why don't I share with them technology that'll help them travel the stars? And he shares that with them. And these slug creatures realize, oh yeah, this technology's great. It'll help us find new hosts to take over. Bum, bum, bum. It's the Yeerks. Zero gave technology to the Yeerks, and that's why the Yeerks are able to plague the galaxy now. Andalites are the reason Yeerks are so powerful now.
And the reason Axe wasn't telling them is because, they'll be so mad at me to find out that there was a reason for the Yeerks, and then literally none of them care.
Yeah, he was worried about that, but also, I mean, he was following the law. Even though humans were his friends, he thought at that point, he was still thinking of Zero's kindness. Will humans be a danger if I give them technology? And he realizes at the end, no, these are my friends, right? I need to trust them. But also, yeah, he was worried they were going to be mad at him. But they're all like, no, we get it. People do terrible things all the time. It sounds like Zero was just trying to do the best he could, and he couldn't help that everything went south.
Yeah, it does end rather idealistically for the series, but I guess you need that every once in a while.
Yeah, Axe sneaks back to the planetarium one last time, and he blackmails the controller, saying he'll tell Visser 3 that he betrayed him if he doesn't let him make one more transmission. So he's able to reconnect real quickly with the Andalite homeworld, and he sends a message to the Andalite that Visser 3 controls to his family to say that he still hopes to be with them one day. It ends on a hopeful note. But yeah, that's where you learn the Andalites aren't all good, right? You know, they make their mistakes too.
Oh, or at least they're not fighting the fight just to be a good guy. They're fighting the fight because they caused it.
Yeah, they're not doing it because of altruism. It's because they feel guilty. They're the ones that created the monster. So you learn more. No surprise probably for you that the Andalites aren't exactly the most perfect species. They have problems with them. You could tell now that I read the whole series, not realizing it, but when I read that Applegate was being inspired by Lord of the Rings, you can kind of see how the Andalites are sort of like this elf-like race, and the Yeerks are more like an orc race, and the Andalites are we're so in tune with nature, and we're so smart and graceful and beautiful, but really it's like, not as much as you think, you silly elves.
General thoughts. I feel like the series is getting better.
Oh, good.
As we go along. That being said, I have to read a Cassie book again eventually, so we'll see how I feel then.
Is that official now? You don't like Cassie as a character?
She's my least favorite.
She's like the mom character. It's like I've never had ill feelings towards her, even when she was at her worst.
I don't hate her. Like I said, I understand her place in the group and what she's doing, but she's my least favorite archetype.
Well, I don't think there's too much, hopefully not, in the next one you'll hate her. I think the next one, the plot is Axe and Tobias. When Visser 3 realizes they attacked basically his eating grounds, he's like, hey, they must have eating grounds too. Why don't I attack that? So under the guise of a lumber company, they're going to try to figure out where the Andalites are, and the group has to try to protect Axe and Tobias from their efforts.
That's so funny. I just love the idea that they're like, how do we do this? A lumber company.
Exactly. So you think it's getting better?
I think so. I think I gave more 5 stars. What did I rate these? Because I think 1 was a 4-star for me, 2 was a 4-star for me, 3 was a 4-star for me, because Marco's book was the first 5-star. Number 7, I gave 5 stars. Megamorphs 1, I gave 5 stars. And then number 8, I gave 4 stars. So,
okay.
Like I said, I think that's a better overall score than the last 2 episodes have been. One question for the author. I just have a series of questions I would like to ask about the Yeerk.
Yeah, clearly.
Because, she sat there and had to think about what it looked like and what her decisions were behind making it from Saturn instead of like a Jupiter. Or why does it have so many teeth? Why is it a bunch of little things created together? I would just be really curious what her thought process while creating the creature was.
So basically, you would be like a Star Trek fan that would bug an actor at a convention and be like, can you go into specifics about this thing from the show? And the poor actor's trying hard, but in their mind, they're just thinking, it's a dumb show. I didn't think of all the aspects.
No. I would not approach an actor about it. I'd approach the screenwriter about it.
I say actor, it could be like the creator of the show, and they're just thinking in their head, I didn't think that far. Please stop teasing me. I'm about to lose my cool.
I don't believe that. The amount of Easter eggs and future foreshadowing that she has, even in these early books to later stuff, she thinks about it. She's a thinker.
She does. I mean, like I said, this hints towards the Andalite Chronicles because we get more of Elfangor's story. It also hints towards the Hork-Bajir Chronicles because we actually get to meet Zero in that book.
So I think she put a lot of thought into it, and I would just like to hear her thought process.
Yeah, maybe there is a lot more that she didn't share in the book that she thought of. Who knows? I guess maybe back, since you're going to ask your question that you're nitpick about, I would ask why the whole thought speech thing.
Yeah, that's a fair question. To be like, why?
Why aren't you consistent with this?
And the answer might just be because it would be too convenient.
Yeah, no, plot-wise, for the plot, you need it to sort of be that way.
But still.
It still annoys me. It doesn't make sense. Why, when you're other animals, you're fine, but when you're human, you can't do it suddenly. It doesn't make sense to me. So, yeah, I'd just be the annoying fan asking that question.
So for the sum total of these 3 books, looking at rating, I would probably give them a new morph out of 10. Rachel gets the new bear morph. We try out the new megamorph style, and then we get Axe for the first time as an Andalite. And so that's just kind of how I felt going into these. At first you're like, what's going on? But by the end of it, it works out really well, I think. And so it's like, yay, it's kind of exciting.
Dang, that's a really good rating. I want to steal that because that's a really good way to put it. It was a lot of new first times. Because clearly the Megamorph thing was popular because they do it a few more times through the series. More memorable times, I guess you could say, too. My rating?
Yeah.
I'd steal your rating out of 10. I think you dealt it on the head. I'd give it the same rating. I think that's very accurate. I can't express how much joy I feel that we're finally to the point where Rachel has her bear morph, finally, because it is just such a part of her.
This was all a prequel to this point.
Yeah, because you read the first 6, and every time she just turns into an elephant, and you're like, it's so big, and yeah, they're strong, but not really what she needs. But when she finds that bear morph, chef's kiss. I mean, she's definitely the warrior of the group. If this was a D&D party, she would be the barbarian or the fighter.
The grizzly bear just has the anger that Rachel has inside, and so it works much better.
Exactly. It has the brute force, like busting down the door, knocking someone out, shoving something through a window. I mean, it's just everything that Rachel wants to do, that the elephant just wasn't there. So this is Rachel gets her bear morph finally out of 10.
Read again. Yeah, I'd read these again. I don't have any reason not to. If I was rereading the series, I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, they're short. That's what I love about it. I would definitely reread it again. And it's not painful because they're designed for preteens. They're really short. It's not hard to read through a book. I could basically do it within a day, which I've done, I believe, with some of these. Just knock it out real quick.
It's the Looney Tunes. It's amazing. It's stupendous. It's short.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think this has high rereadability because of that. They're like short stories to me. They're very quick and easy to read through. But still, what I love is it's short, yeah, but it's still good. She packs a lot in there where you really get to know these characters. Even though it's written very shortly, it has lots of content and fills to it.
Yeah, she doesn't have a lot of fluff.
Yeah.
Everything has a purpose.
And it's well written. You would think like, oh, I'm an adult now, I read this, it's too childish. Even as an adult, I read through it, it's like, this is good. This is compelling. It has me interested.
See, it's books like these that I tell people when they're like, oh, well, that's just a children's book, or that's a YA, or whatever. It doesn't have to be that good. I'm like, that is insulting to children and YA. There are so many good ones.
Just because it's at a 8th grade reading level doesn't mean it's at an 8th grade value.
Or what adults think an 8th grade value is.
Yeah, it's not like, I have 2 pieces of gum and I want to share 1 gum with Sally. No, it's, do we kill this person, this innocent person who has committed so many war crimes because they actually didn't commit them, and they're asking you to kill? Like, this is deep stuff for a kid's book.
It can really engage that critical thinking. See, that's the thing. This book is trying to help develop critical thinking versus those other books that are like, oh, well, you don't have critical thinking yet, so you're not going to think too much about this.
Exactly. That's why, to go back to, I think, what I said in the first 3 books we started with, that this book series really developed who I am today. I think I have a lot to thank for my love of sci-fi, my love of critical analysis to these books during my childhood.
Favorite of the series so far? So I'm looking at either The Predator, which was Marco's last book, where he finds his cause and he finds out about his mom, or The Stranger. The Stranger being Rachel's book, because I liked Rachel in the other book too, but this one was just a better book, I think, despite the whole elephant police situation.
Yeah, I mean, comparing to Rachel's other book, The Visitor, I think, when she's a cat and it's the dilemma with her friend and spying on Chapman and all that stuff, that one's fine, but it's not Rachel at her element. It's Rachel being a spy. It's Rachel dealing with moral dilemmas of her friend.
It's her getting her passion.
Yeah, The Stranger is Rachel in her element. She's a bear. She's breaking things. She's attacking things. There's still a moral dilemma, but the moral dilemma is, I'm tired of this. Do I really want to keep fighting? And at the end, she's like, yeah, I want to keep fighting.
Yeah, the other book was her getting her passion, and then this book was resealing it and doubling down. So I think it did much better. And I agree, the bear morph fits her so much better.
Oh, so much better. Now you see why I look at the 2 as iconic.
True. But have you read these books? Do you like the Megamorph POV shifts, or do you prefer single POVs? Do you have any book recommendations for us? Tell us all about it in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit like, and if you're enjoying yourself, hit subscribe for more. Thank you for exploring The Stranger, The Andalite's Gift, and The Alien with us. Join us next time when we'll be covering The Voyage of the Dawn Treader by C.S. Lewis. I'm Sam Reiner.
And I'm James Reiner.
And we hope to see you and a friend here next time. Escape with Me Book Club is a Lunar Skull production. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok to keep up to date with us. Lunar_SKULK.